one. Hello! Welcome to the BSI Comics Podcast.
Vodcast.
Vodcast?
Vodcast.
I can't get used to that. It's vlog. No, I don't like vlog either. Video podcast, maybe?
Short for vodcast?
Well, no, vodcast would be short for that.
Whatever.
Smart ass. Anyway, I'm Adam.
I'm Fletch.
And we are your hosts. We're in a different space, you can tell. We're not in the comic book store. We're deep in the Fletch cave.
Deep inside the Fletch cave.
Wow, that came off way grosser than I expected it to. Way grosser. And you didn't help.
Nope.
So, on this episode, we want to talk a little about DC Rebirth, the event that's on everyone's mind. Or at least anyone that reads comics.
Right. Everybody's talking. Good, bad.
Yeah. I'd say this is the biggest news since the New 52 was announced.
It's definitely one of the most important things going on right now in comics, because if this doesn't work...
Well, we're all in trouble. So it needs to work, and you need to buy these comics.
Marvel will own everything.
Who will employ us if it doesn't?
Disney.
Should we be talking about this?
What?
No, it's gonna work. It's gonna work. But we want to talk to you about some very cool comics. This was all announced at WonderCon in a big. They videotaped it and all that.
They live streamed the entire announcement, so.
Which is unusual. Most cons don't. I know aren't they doing a thing like Con TV now?
Yeah.
But
that's Wizard. That's yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
nothing will come of that.
Well, we'll see. But so we're going to talk to you about a few of the announcements. Well, I guess all of them for DC's Rebirth. So first up is the new Batman series, which for those of you who don't know, Batman has been the top book at DC for what, 4 years now?
Right up until they took Batman out of the Batsuit.
Oh, it went down after that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Justice League was the top seller for a good year, and then Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo rightly just kicked them out of that chair. And
more people started reading that Batman book and just saw how good it really was.
Which isn't a commentary on Justice League. It's just that
Batman run wasn't that good.
And everyone loves Batman. So, very interesting is that Tom King will be the new writer. Now, Tom King, for those of you who don't know, has been writing that really interesting, really cool series, Vision, over at Marvel, which is obviously going to go through some growing pains because Tom King is now exclusive to DC.
Pretty well speculated that this is what was going to happen. The artist we were a little unsure of, but it looks like David Finch.
Right, who has been on Wonder Woman for the past year or so, year and a half. And Jordi Belair, who might be the top colorist in the industry right now.
Best in the game.
Really, really good. She's all over the place. So it's going to be pretty interesting. It's going to be very different from the Snyder years. Tom King has a different style, and I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with that.
Tom King pretty much handpicked by Snyder, I would say.
Was he?
He's definitely a disciple of Snyder, I believe.
Oh, he's one of the students?
I don't know if he's one of the students officially, but it's definitely... He's got the blessing of Snyder.
Okay. Well, that would be really terrible if Scott Snyder was like, no, that guy sucks.
I have nothing to do with this.
But moving on, obviously there's more than one Batman announcement, which is All-Star Batman.
A little strange, because the reason... originally speculated Snyder was going to be hopping over to Detective.
I think that was actually confirmed.
Temporarily.
But yeah, so...
He didn't want to do a book that was twice a month, was what I heard.
That's what I heard as well, but then when it was announced that he would be doing All-Star Batman, which it was... So Detective Comics, when they said he was going to be on it, they were saying he's going to be doing it with different artists, and he's going to kind of be able to do his own thing, where it's not going to be... I don't want to say that it won't be as continuity intensive, but he's just allowed to go tell whatever story he wants over in Detective. And then DC announced that Detective Comics would be a twice-a-month book. And so, yes, the rumor was that he could... Well, not that he couldn't keep up that schedule, but he didn't want to.
He didn't want to be pressured to just put something out. He wanted to do something because it was what he wanted to do, and it was quality. But
then All-Star Batman was announced, and this will be a twice-monthly book. So, the All-Star title's interesting. The All-Star titles have been mixed over the years. Obviously, All-Star Superman, well, yes, All-Star Superman is maybe the best Superman story that's ever been told. All-Star Batman.
We'll never know.
Yeah, well, we know what happened. But so it's interesting, but I guess this is suggesting that it won't be constant continuity at all. Like, or maybe...
It will be.
It will be?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then why use the All-Star name?
I think the All-Star is more to the team that's doing it.
Okay.
So
the team's going to... Well, it's always going to be Scott Snyder, but we have a listing of John Romita Jr., who I'm a big fan of, depending on who's inking him. You know, not always. Jock, Sean Murphy, who's a frequent Snyder collaborator, Paul Pope, the legendary Paul Pope. I don't know who Afua Richardson is, but Tul Lotay wrote one of my favorite recent graphic novels, which is Supreme Blue Rose. So, pretty interesting. He said that his first story is probably going to have Two-Face, which I think is one of the few Batman villains he has not tackled in the 50 issues of Batman with Greg Capullo. So, pretty interesting. But Scott Snyder's still on Batman.
I think this isn't coming out till August.
That I'm not sure.
Yeah. So
but yeah, I did hear that it wasn't coming out immediately.
They're going to get ahead a little bit. I think that's what they're going to do. The twice a month, they're going to have a story wrapped up.
Right. So the next one is Detective Comics, which looks like it's going to be a little less Batman intensive. There's some other characters on there. We've got
family intensive.
Now, what I heard about this is that they're going to be running like a boot camp for Bat characters. Like, I think it's Batman and Batwoman are the leaders of it. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have Tim Drake as Red Robin in a very close to the original Tim Drake costume. Not really digging the Red Robin symbol, though. It looks like the RX symbol from like prescription drugs. But I've never been a big fan of the Red Robin name. It seems very silly to me. But
reminds me of hamburgers.
We're also going to have the Spoiler, and I just got that. We're going to have the Spoiler and whatever Cassandra Cain's name is. I think they just announced it. I didn't catch that. But I think the most interesting character that's going to be in this is Clayface,
right?
Who I guess is now going to be a Bat hero in a way, or not a Bat hero specifically, but a Batman ally or something. It's interesting. Yeah. I like the idea. I like Batwoman. I'm not crazy about the idea of like she's better trained than Tim Drake, or Cassandra Cain for that matter, who's supposed to be one of the greatest fighters in the DC universe. But we'll see. So, pretty interesting.
Looks good.
Up next, Nightwing. No more Grayson. And
black and blue.
Yeah.
Back in black and blue.
And actually, for the first time since the New 52, because he had the red costume throughout his original run. Interesting to me is that this is actually the Bruce Timm version of the Nightwing costume.
Or very close to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a few differences, but it's obviously a little closer to that than the Greg Land design. Big fan of Nightwing. Kind of glad that he's back to being Nightwing.
Written by Tim Seeley.
Right. We didn't mention the creative team on the last one.
Oh, I thought James Tynion. I'm sorry.
James Tynion and Eddie Barrows won Detective Comics. Sorry, James Tynion and Eddie Barrows. But, back to Nightwing. So we got I didn't get to read Tim Seeley and Javier Fernandez and Marcus Toe. So part of the part of the issue is that they're going to be some of these books are going to be shipped twice monthly, which means that in order to keep them on time, they're going to have multiple creative teams. What we're hearing is that there's probably going to be 3 creative teams on some books, depending on
one writer for the most part, and the artists will just rotate arcs.
Right.
Hopefully they'll rotate arcs and not books, because that'd be super distracting. Even more so.
Since Rebirth isn't technically a reboot, they're still following up previous story threads. So Nightwing is clearly going to focus on the fact that Dick Grayson has accepted the offer to become part of the Owls, the Talons, which, if you read the original Court of Owls series in Batman, he was originally going to be a Talon. So, pretty cool. Batgirl. Well, the Batgirl of Burnside is gone. The costume's still there, but it's a different team.
Same character, just leaving Burnside.
Different team. Hope Larson is writing it. I'm not familiar with her. Raphael Albuquerque, who got in... I don't think it's that big a deal, but got in a little bit of
drew
trouble.
An awesome cover, and somebody didn't like it.
Yeah, people were upset because I don't know.
Whatever.
But pretty interesting. Love Albuquerque's art. We don't know much about it, but she is no longer the Batgirl of Burnside.
She's heading to Asia.
Oh, yeah, it does say that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird choice. Well, I wonder how she's going to split her duties, because the Batgirl is also in Batgirls and the Birds of Prey by Jim Benson, Shauna Benson, and artist Claire Rowe, none of whom I'm familiar with. But the cover's pretty interesting. They're implying that there will be an Oracle character who I guess isn't going to be Batgirl.
There's going to be an Oracle that claims she's Oracle, but they think she's an imposter, and they're trying to figure out, just what's
now
going on exactly.
It's worth mentioning that Barbara Gordon in this continuity has never been Oracle.
Right on.
So this is a new character one way or the other. The other characters are Black Canary, the new version, the punk rock version, and then the Helena Bertinelli from the Grayson comic, which is not the Huntress that we've been following for
But the
years.
current Huntress.
Yeah, so this is... it's really complex, folks. Honestly, it's not worth going into. But this is a different version of the Huntress.
That looks exactly like the other one and has a crossbow.
Not exactly like her. So Red Hood and Outlaws, still around. Scott Lobdell and Dexter Soy. Scott Lobdell has been on it the whole time for the last, 5 years. Don't know much about it. I see... Is that Bizarro?
It's Bizarro.
So...
And Gambit.
Oh.
Or Shatterstar. I can't tell.
I actually thought that was Zealot from Wildcats. I don't know.
Also good.
They haven't announced anything about that other than some previews art. So, Action Comics.
Dan Jurgens. Back on
basically,
the sticks.
Dan Jurgens might be the...
definitive?
Well, at least for our generation. And actually, I'd argue, he did Death of Superman and all that, so... No, Dan Jurgens, very good thing. Is this the one that we're going to see the pre-52 Superman in? I see from the comic art, we're seeing Lex Luthor in his Superman
the story
suit.
They're going to be coming into the story, but I think that is in regular Superman, just the straight Superman. Action is going to be Luthor claiming that he's a better Superman than Superman could ever be. He's the one that they need. Kind of continuing on.
Well, he's a better Superman than the one that was in Batman vs Superman.
I'm a better Superman than the one that was in that movie.
Couldn't help myself. Moving on. So the artists are Patrick Zurcher, Tyler Kirkham, Steven Segovia, and other people. That's a lot of artists named for this title. I'm a big fan of Steven Segovia. I don't know, if
it's a AAA title. They need to make sure it's out on time. So.
Right. And that's starting in June.
Segovia and Kirkham are the two that stand out for me.
Kirkham. I haven't seen much of him lately. He was, I believe, a Rob Liefeld student. That's not a commentary on anything, but he came from... actually, Liefeld had some pretty great artists under his wing. The next title is one I don't know if I'm most interested in, but it's very curious.
It's a new character.
Gene Luen Yang, the guy who's been writing, I think it's Superman that he's been on recently, with John Romita Jr., is doing a new book called New Super Dash Man.
The dash aside.
I'm just explaining that it's a little different. So the idea is that a Chinese guy, actually Chinese, not Chinese American, gets Superman's powers.
Superman-like powers.
No, I thought it was actually
his powers. Yes.
Right. The artist Victor
Bogdanovich.
Okay. Really cool style. I can't quite place it, but it looks very reminiscent of someone else. But really interesting concept. There are a lot of Superman characters running around the DCU right now, but I dig it. I hope this is a good book. I'm a lot more interested in it than the next book we're going to announce.
Which is Supergirl.
By Steve Orlando and Brian Ching.
Look, love it or hate it, what they're doing, it makes sense that if you have a popular show or you have a movie coming out...
Oh, no issues with that.
You should have a book to back. Right. Just right now we've got the Supergirl show. It's super popular.
Well, isn't
super
there?
popular.
There's a web digital exclusive right now, isn't there?
People come in the store and are like, oh, I want to check out the Supergirl comic. Well, there is none.
That's always been an issue with Supergirl, especially for young girls, because let's be honest, if you're asking a young girl which superhero characters that she's interested in, it's probably going to be Wonder Woman and Supergirl. And the reality is that we don't have books that we can give to young girls. At least not. We barely have anything as far as Supergirl. So I'm not against the title. I'm just not necessarily that interested in it.
But smart move on DC actually having stuff to support what's out there.
Yeah. No, they needed... honestly, there should have been a Supergirl title in stands already. The most interesting thing about that is that they're going to... or they already have announced that Supergirl's father is not who we were originally told, and that technically she is not Superman's cousin at all.
Well...
no, because her last name is L.
She's a cousin in, like, the Hawaiian. Like, what's up, Oos?
Let's move on. You actually have to scroll.
Did you tell him who her father was going to be?
Oh, no, I don't know if we were supposed to announce that or not.
Yeah, he straight out said it at the...
Okay, well, then it's the Cyborg Superman. Interestingly enough, the name of Cyborg Superman is Hank Henshaw, who is a character in the Supergirl TV series, but it is not Cyborg Superman. He actually turns out to be the Martian Manhunter, which is super confusing. But it's interesting. Hank Henshaw in the comics is sort of a Reed Richards analog,
right?
An evil Reed Richards. So we'll see. Up next, Superman by Peter Tomasi, who I'm a big fan of, and Patrick Gleason, who's
also drawing it.
Yeah. The other artist will be Doug Mahnke. So Gleason and Mahnke are, I think, for the last however many years, are two of the best artists that DC has. Tomasi and Gleason worked together most famously on Green Lantern Corps, excuse me, and then later on Batman, I believe, in Detective Comics. I'm pretty sure it was Detective
Gleason,
Comics.
Yeah. Super solid. I mean, couldn't ask for anything else. Anybody better to be drawing a book, solid book, on schedule.
Now, the interesting thing about this is the title that I was confused about. This is the one where the pre-New 52 Superman, who reappeared after Convergence, will be going to. So it's our version of Superman that we grew up with, our version of Lois Lane, and their son, Jonathan, who we'll mention later because it looks like he's also in another book. But I'm excited about this. I guess this is going to be replacing Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
So, up next, we have Superwoman. And we know nothing about it aside from artist Phil Jimenez is going to be writing it. And Emanuela Lupacchino is going to be drawing it. We know nothing else. There's actually not even that much art.
I think she was on Starfire, I believe. Or did some stuff on the Starfire book.
I'll take your word on that. So we just got to move on. There's nothing we can announce about it. Trinity, which is going to replace both Batman, Superman, and Superman Wonder Woman. It's going to be written by Francis Manapul.
And drawn by Francis Manapul.
As well as Clay Mann, whose styles intersect somewhat. They'll work very well together, which I appreciate when you're switching back and forth on artists. I'm very interested in this. I'm a huge fan of Manapul as an artist. I don't know if I've ever read anything that he's written, though.
I kind of hope they just make this book one of those fun titles, kind of like Spidey over in the Marvel Universe, where it doesn't have to be like in continuity necessarily, but you can just pick it up and read a really fun superhero story. Like, they're going to take on Lex Luthor in this one, and they're going to take on the Joker in this one, or,
It's also a less clunky title than Batman, Superman, or Superman, Wonder Woman.
Right.
Now, granted, it's a little easier to sell people something on that has Batman or Superman on the title, but
I was kind of hoping that they were going to go with Batman versus Superman versus Wonder Woman.
That's probably what the title's about.
Yeah.
So up next is Wonder Woman, starring Greg Rucka, who has not been at DC for quite a while.
But a lot of people's favorite Wonder Woman run.
Not mine. Mine is the Azzarello run. But obviously Rucka is a great writer, and he's being illustrated by... Is that supposed to be Liam Sharp, or is there a guy named Liam Sharpen as well?
I'm not familiar with his stuff.
Okay, well, it says
Nicola
Sharp
Scott,
multiple
however,
times. Oh, yeah, I'm a huge Nicola Scott fan. She's recently been on, what is it, Black Magic? And she improves all the time, in my opinion. So
it's going to be killer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to look good.
Sorry to Mr. Sharpen, but there is an artist named Liam Sharp, so that is confusing. Up next, Justice League, written by Brian Hitch, who is currently on Justice League of America, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And the artists are Tony Daniel and Fernando Pizarrin. Pizarrin, I know, did a Justice Society run. Daniel obviously has been all over the place.
Everybody's familiar with Tony Daniel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be good.
So, are those all of the twice monthly books?
Nope.
Oh, up next, Flash, writer Joshua Williams. I'm not familiar with him, but do you want to say the artist? Because I know you love saying the names of both these guys.
No, I don't want to say it. I just want to snicker.
Artist Carmine Di Giandomenico, who recently was on Peter David's X Factor. Really, really good artist. Oh, the last thing he did was actually a Battle World book, the X Factor one. I don't remember what it's called.
Flash stuff looks incredible. This is the book I'm most excited about coming out. I'm not a real big Flash fan, but this whole story, the art looks incredible. So.
The other artist is Neil Gooch, who I'm a big fan of. I haven't seen him in a while. I think the last thing I saw him on was that Gail Simone book, Welcome to Tranquility.
Okay.
But I really love both of these artists. They have very different styles, but I think they both work. And
it's one thing I'm worried. I hope it's not too distracting with different artists switching. You know, it'll be different arcs supposedly. So.
Yeah, I think as long as they stay with this artist does this arc, the next artist does the next arc. I think when people really get bothered by it is when you have a fill-in artist in the middle of an arc. It's understandable. Things are going to happen. People have lives. Things happen, but really, you want a solid arc from every artist.
And the premise for this Flash book is that there's these lightning storms going on, and a couple people get struck, and they become speedsters. So you have these several speedsters. Some of them want to become heroes and do what's right. Some of them just want to be left alone. They didn't ask for this. But one of them becomes a supervillain because he's like, well, I got these powers.
I think that's a pretty low estimate. I feel like most people would be supervillains if they got super speed powers.
Down here.
So,
but new villain, his name's Godspeed. It's a white and gold Flash design. Pretty awesome. Looks good.
So up next, Aquaman. One of my favorite writers, Dan Abnett.
Also one of mine. Co-written
by Brad Walker. And Brad Walker is also one of the artists, along with Jesus Marino and Phil Briones. Familiar with Marino, excuse me. And I think Brad Walker is actually the artist who did that really great Marvel Zombies 3. The one where, what's his name? The robot guy. Oh, this is driving me crazy. The guy from Next Wave. The Jack Kirby character. Oh, this is so... Anyway. Moving on. I like Brad Walker. We don't know anything about it other than who's working on it. Now
Hal Jordan.
Huh?
Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps.
I know you're just doing it to annoy me at this point. It is absolutely Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. So, that title isn't going to have many changes. Robert Venditti is still writing it. Ethan Van Sciver, who is well associated with Green Lantern at this point.
Standard bearer for Green Lantern.
And then Rafa Sandoval is the secondary artist. Not secondary, the other artist on it. What's interesting about Green Lantern is that they're going to be separating it in a different way now. So Hal Jordan will be the main Green Lantern in the Green Lantern Corps book. And then there's going to be another series called Green Lanterns. And that is going to star... Why isn't that... You would think it would be right underneath it. I guess we'll get to it in a minute.
I can get down there. It's Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz.
Yeah, Baz, whatever it is. I'd actually forgotten that Simon Baz existed. Like, they really... They hyped it up like, yeah, we've got this new Muslim Green Lantern. And they really dropped him for... What, 3 years now or something like that? 2 years? Something like that? Jessica Cruz has been around in the Justice League series. Geoff Johns created her and is introducing her. And so the idea is actually something based on when Geoff Johns was writing Green Lantern, which is that they predicted that Simon Baz one day would train Jessica Cruz to be the first female Green Lantern, and obviously that's what Green Lanterns is going to be about. I'm seeing a Ethan Van Sciver cover there, but he's not drawing it. It's actually
no, it's just
writer Sam Humphries and Robson Rocca and Adrian Syaf, whom I'm a big fan of.
Also, and John's doing a Green Lantern's one shot, co-writing it with Humphries, who's writing this. It'll
I guess that'll basically be a 0 issue.
Right.
So for some reason that was like 2 down from the other stuff. Up next is Titans, which is going to be a separate book from Teen Titans, which they've done in the past.
Yeah. Pretty awesome creative team on this book.
Dan Abnett's on this one. He was writing Titans Hunt, or I guess is still writing Titans Hunt, which the idea was that the New 52, they never quite figured out whether or not there was an original Titans team. So Dan Abnett explained it by saying their memories were erased and there was a Titans team. And so that's going to move into Titans. Artist Brett Booth.
Demon Puppy himself. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So, big fan of Brett Booth. He's on Aquaman right now. He was on Flash for a while. One of the best artists to come out of Wildstorm. Very quick, very sharp style. They also have a Teen Titans book written by Ben Percy with artist John Boy Myers. I know you're excited about that one.
I'm a big fan of John Boy Myers. You don't get to see him too much. He did some Spawn issues. Pretty cool style.
He reminds me of a very, very toned down Rafa Sandoval, which isn't a bad thing. I like Rafa Sandoval.
It's a little more fun, loose kind of thing.
So a new Titans team coming out of that. So the idea is that Damian Wayne is now the leader of the Titans.
Because he decided he's going to be the leader of the Titans.
Which sounds like a Damian Wayne thing to do.
And everyone else is like, we don't agree, and that's how we get to this book.
So the team that we're getting is Beast Boy, the new version of Wally West, who I guess will be going by Kid Flash. That looks like Starfire and Raven.
Correct.
So, definitely a mix of old and new there. Like, obviously, that's a pretty classic Titans lineup if you take out the names, or some of the names. And,
looks fun.
Very cool. Cyborg still around with writer John Semper and artist Will Conrad and Paul Pelletier. Very familiar with Conrad and Pelletier. Very different styles. Pelletier is a little crisper edges. Conrad's a little more organic. We don't know anything about this other than, it's more Cyborg.
A lot of people thought the Cyborg book was going to go away. Pretty cool to see it sticking around.
Right. Is that the same writer, John Semper?
No.
Okay. Up next is Harley Quinn. So Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti still on it.
Nothing's changing on Harley Quinn.
Who's John Timms?
Chad Hardin and John Timms, same artist. I mean,
Okay,
Hardin's been drawing it.
Harden was on it from the beginning. I'm not familiar with.
Only thing changing is it's going to twice a month.
Okay.
If you like the Harley Quinn, same old.
Pretty much everyone does. I like it. The really good salesmanship there. Like, if you like Harley Quinn, same old, same old. I get it. Moving on. Suicide Squad, written by Ron Williams. Isn't that supposed to be Rob Williams? I think it's Rob Williams. Artists are Jim Lee and Philip Tan. It's fine. Jim Lee's not going to be on this book long.
He might draw the cover.
Yeah, I can see that.
I like Jim Lee.
I love Jim Lee. Jim Lee's been my favorite artist for my entire life. He's not going to be on this book long. Let's be honest. Up next is a very interesting title. I think kind of something people have been wanting for a while.
This is one of the books, surprisingly, when we're talking about Rebirth at the Shop, that a lot of people are excited about.
So it's going to be called Blue Beetle, and it's going to have both the Jaime Reyes version of Blue Beetle and Ted Kord. Now, this will probably be a different version of Ted Kord than we're used to, just because I'm pretty sure he's much younger in the New 52 continuity, unless they just kind of did away with that, which is possible. Scott Collins, who I'm a huge fan of, is going to be drawing it, and Keith Giffen, who I believe invented Jaime Reyes.
Okay.
And obviously Keith Giffen is well associated with Ted Kord through Justice League International. So, yeah, I can see this being maybe a sleeper hit. Because I I don't know if DC really gets how much people miss the Blue Beetle.
In any iteration?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Batman Beyond's coming back. No idea if it's going to be Terry McGinnis or a future version. It is Terry McGinnis? Okay. Well, that's good. I never really got into the idea that there might be a possible alternate future version of Tim Drake that...
It was a good book.
Terry McGinnis is Batman Beyond. That's what we want. Same with Bruce Wayne being Batman. And that's what we want.
Danny Jurgens writing that, and Bernard Chang.
Definitely a step up.
Yeah. Chang on Batman Beyond should be incredible.
So, speaking of sleeper hits...
The other book everybody's kind of excited about that's been reading comics for a while.
Christopher Priest will be writing Destro. Now, really quick, the artist Carlo Pagliulan, who I believe worked on Black Canary years ago. Igor Vittorino, I'm not familiar with, nor am I familiar with Felipe Watanabe. So the reason I'm excited, I'm not even that big a Deathstroke fan, but Christopher Priest is sort of the best writer you've never heard of. I'm a huge fan of the Ray series from the 90s.
Right.
That's where I'm most familiar with him on. But he's done a bunch of stuff. He's actually one of the biggest influences on Deadpool. He came after Joe Kelly, I believe. Joe Kelly sort of reestablished Deadpool tonally in the way that people are familiar with. But after him came Christopher Priest, who did like a really good run on it. And we'll get back to some other stuff that he did a little later.
Right on.
But very, very excited, probably more than anything, to see Christopher Priest on a big book. So, Green Arrow, written by Ben Percy, with artists Otto Schmidt and Juan Ferreira. All right, you can do this one.
Ferreira.
All right.
Really exciting about Green Arrow because he's got his goatee back.
Yeah, he's a little closer to the Longbow Hunters version.
The badass version.
Interesting just because you're not seeing that in the TV show, the Stephen Amell version.
Right.
And I like that. I don't think that you need the comics to look like the show or the movies, whatever it is.
That's what I was saying before. It doesn't have to be the same characters, because that's what you're watching on the show, but just that there's something out there that you can relate to.
Right. I don't think, like, the idea when they try to make them mirror is that the audience will be confused when they go into the comic shop and they don't see the Samuel L. Jackson version of Nick Fury or whatever. To me, that just makes me think that you think your audience is stupid.
Right.
I like that you can play with things and have them.
They like the character. They're interested in what's going on here. It's good.
Right. They're continuing a Hellblazer series. It is called Hellblazer and not John Constantine, or Constantine, excuse me, as he's called in England. It's still a non-R-rated version, non-Vertigo version.
Right.
Which, I mean, I'm partial to a proper Hellblazer Vertigo series, but I don't think that anything is hurt by it not being R-rated. And that's written by Simon Oliver, and artist is Justin Moritad. So now we're getting into the series that are not twice monthly. This next one's very interesting to me. It's probably one of my top ideas. Not my ideas, but one of the top interesting ideas that DC's coming out with Rebirth, which is Super Sons, which is going to have, I'm guessing, Jonathan Kent.
It sure looks like it.
Who's going to be the new Superboy. It's pretty, I really think DC botched Superboy post New 52, but this looks very fun, and the Batman or Robin character is going to be Damian Wayne, so there's a new, a Superboy Robin team-up book coming, right. Super Sons. And I guess that's also referring to the fact that Damian Wayne has superpowers now?
No.
I think he still does.
Does he?
He got superpowers after he came back to life.
Oh, right.
It just now occurred to me how ridiculous I sound when you say things like that out loud. So moving on.
Happens a lot. He does have a pretty sweet Green Goblin Galader, though.
I do like that.
Hopefully they keep it light, keep it fun. This should be a fun, light book.
Looking at the cover art, it's definitely going to be a funner book.
Right.
So I guess that's it for the list. One other thing I wanted to talk about before we do some recommendations. So one of the big announcements that to me is kind of insane. I didn't believe it when I read it a week after WonderCon hit, because no one's talking about this. In Justice League number 50, Geoff Johns will reveal the identity of the Joker.
And I don't believe it for a second.
See, I do. It's Geoff Johns. He's literally at the top of DC. If it was any other writer, I could see it being a hoax. But I can't see them walking this back.
Let me rephrase. I don't think they're going to give you an exact, this person is the Joker. They're going to give you an idea, but I don't think they're going to be like, hey, this guy, he was the Joker.
Well, the genesis of this is that in the current arc of Justice League, Batman takes on the role of Metron, the god of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And when he sits in the Mobius chair, he asks various questions like, who really killed my parents? And Joe Chill, which he already knew. So then he asks the name of the Joker, and he gets a response, and he says, no, that can't be possible.
Right.
Which to me implies one of two things. Obviously, this is going to be a character we know of if we don't know directly. Well, then why would he say it's not possible? If his name was Rick Smith...
I'm just shaking my head. There's no way they could go on.
I think it's either going to be someone who we believe is dead, a la, say, Thomas Wayne, or it's going to be somebody really left field that it doesn't make any sense, like Commissioner Gordon. And to be honest with you, I would be kind of hilariously excited to find out it's Commissioner Gordon.
It can't be.
It can't be, and it shouldn't be, but I would find it hilarious.
What if it's like Commissioner Gordon's dad or something stupid like that?
How old is Commissioner Gordon? Actually, it depends on what book, because if he's like 20 in the current Batman series.
I think he lost like 25 years when he shaved his head. I'm gonna have to work.
Did you know that you could suddenly become a very young man just by
a mohawk,
shaving
man?
your head? Yeah.
Get a high fade and mohawk, and
my dad would be interested. Oh, he doesn't have hair, so he couldn't make the mohawk. Oh well. Anyway, I don't know how. I mean, look, I haven't read the book. I don't know how to feel about this. I'm very much of the opinion that the Joker should always be a force of nature. His past is kind of irrelevant.
The best part about the Joker is that you don't know anything about him. Mm. That's why the character works.
But ultimately, he's a reflection of Batman, in that Bruce Wayne isn't. Batman isn't Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Right.
And the same thing. Whoever the Joker's old name was, his name is the Joker. So
it doesn't matter. You don't need that. The best part is he's an evil dude. He's the Joker. You don't need to know this is who he was in a past life, and this is the event that set him on this path. Like the mystery makes the character better.
That's going to be in Justice League number 50. So if you want to know who the Joker may or may not be, depending on which one of us you find more credible,
or it's obviously me. Something really deep. He's like, the Joker is me. The Joker is you. The Joker is all of us.
Oh, I thought you were going for a Fight Club thing.
No, please, no. I'm so terrified of what might actually happen.
So, before we let you go, we're going to continue our recommendations, and we're going to start with yours because it references
Christopher Priest. This right here is the Black Panther Complete Collection. Lot of really good stuff in here. Some of my favorite artists are in here. Joe Jusko and Mark Teixeira. Mark Teixeira, fantastic. You might have seen some of his stuff on like Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider, and I'd say Sabretooth are the two characters he's most famous.
Right. He does a phenomenal Ghost Rider. But with all the excitement about Black Panther and the Civil War movie, go check this out and get to know the character a little bit.
What's interesting about this is not the most recent version of Black Panther. There's been two other series.
This is like 2000, 98, 2000?
Probably closer to 98 or 2000, yeah. The most famous, well, the one that followed it up was by Reginald Hudlin and John Romita Jr.
I don't remember that one.
No one does, and I'm pretty sure Marvel is kind of pretending it didn't exist because it was pretty horrible. Reginald Hudlin should never write anything. It's true. Anyway, there was also a slightly more recent series which replaced Daredevil for a while. It was Black Panther Man Without Fear. Right. Never read it. The art was incredible on it.
J. Scott Campbell did some of the covers on them.
Really interested, just never got around to it. And unfortunately, sometimes that happens. And apparently I wasn't the only one because it didn't even last a year.
No.
But the fact that they're putting out a new collection of Christopher Priest tells you, if you want to know who Black Panther is, check this one out. So, and we have that over at BSI Comics. We have a few copies, so if you want to pick one up.
What do you got?
So, my recommendation is called Injection.
Also going to tie back a little bit.
A little bit. So, this is an Image series by Warren Ellis, Declan Shalvey, and Jordi Belair, who we mentioned earlier being...
Same team that did the first 6 issues of that incredible Moon Knight run.
Very much so. This is, in fact, what they left to do together. Although Jordi Belair stayed on Moon Knight. But, so, there are certain tropes of Warren Ellis comics. And one of the most interesting things about his original series, to me anyway, is that sometimes when he's doing a book, he sort of forms a puzzle, but starts with the edges and circles around and goes towards the middle. So you read the first issue and you might not know what's going on. Read the second issue and you're like, I think I get this. Usually by the third or fourth issue, you're like, oh, got it. And this is definitely the type of series. The only issue with reading those books, I'll use Trees for example, is that sometimes if the first couple of issues don't interest you that much, you sort of lose your way. Right. And I'm a huge Warren Ellis fan, so if I tell you that I'm lost and I'm not really that interested, it's not a good sign.
Or maybe they don't come out when they're supposed to.
Oh, was that a big problem on Trees?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. But the nice thing is that if you read them in trades, usually you don't have that much of an issue because you're not waiting, whatever it may be, a few months to get the next issue. The idea behind Injection is that there's a team in England who's put together to sort of explore theoretical physics, which, if you're a Warren Ellis fan, you know is a big part of his storytelling. He likes to do a lot of research and sort of imagine not only what's currently becoming, but what could be down the line based on what he's seeing.
Right.
He is sort of the Tony Stark of English drunken writers.
Fair enough.
I mean, he's a futurist. But anyway, definitely check out Injection. It's an ongoing series. The first trade will give you a pretty good idea of what it's about, and I think you'll be on board from there. I'm waiting for the next trade because I'm a little behind, but definitely check that out. So is there anything else we should mention? We got Free Comic Book Day coming up.
Free Comic Book Day is coming up. I'm sure we'll
7th.
We'll talk about that again.
Yeah, obviously.
Give you a lineup, who's going to be there, what to look for, maybe some books to look forward to.
All right. So, if you're New Orleans local, come on down to BSI Comics, buy Black Panther or Injection or anything else. We can recommend things.
Come talk to us.
If you're not local, please go visit your local comic shop. Go check it out. Go introduce a new person to comics, and that's the ultimate goal of this: is read more comics.
All right.